Coming up next on the Pod Wheels Network, you'll hear The Highway to Hope, the official podcast of the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund. In this edition of the Highway to Hope podcast, we take a look back at SCF's success in 2020 when the organization surpassed $1 million in donations for the first time in its history. You'll also hear the details on SCF's newest wellness program, Driving Down Diabetes. Here's a preview with SCF Wellness Manager Julie Dillon.
Driving Down Diabetes is something that is near and dear to my heart. What this program is, it is designed for truck drivers, anyone with a Class A CDL who is at risk for diabetes. This program isn't specifically designed for someone who has already been diagnosed with diabetes, but we want to get on the front end of things and help drivers get healthier if they are at risk for diabetes.
Welcome back to the Highway to Hope, the official podcast of the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund. Thanks for connecting with us once again here on the Pod Wheels Network. The SCF Highway to Hope podcast is dedicated to placing a spotlight on the important work being done every week of the year by the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund. As we mentioned at the top, our first podcast of 2021 will look back at some of the milestones that SCF achieved during 2020 as the world dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic. During our feature interview, SCF Wellness Manager Julie Dillon will be discussing the newly established Driving Down Diabetes program, which SCF will start on February 1st. Also during our feature interview segment, we'll meet Catherine Amatrian. Catherine is part of the team at Southern Recipe, which is serving as the sponsor for SCF's Driving Down Diabetes program. Now let's get things rolling on the first 2021 edition of the SCF Highway to Hope podcast by taking you to Shannon Currier, who is the Director of Philanthropy and Development for SCF. As our longtime listeners know, Shannon also serves as the host of the Highway to Hope podcast. As always, Shannon is joined on the podcast by Greg Thompson, the executive producer of the Pod Wheels Network. Shannon and all our guests on the podcast connect remotely to the Pod Wheels Network studios. Now let's hand it off to Shannon and Greg as they open the podcast by discussing the record-setting fundraising effort by SCF during 2020.
Hello, everybody. This is Shannon Currier, the Director of Philanthropy and Development with the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund. Welcome back to the 2021 edition of the Highway to Hope podcast. I'm excited to be back with my partner in crime, Greg Thompson from the Pod Wheels Network. Greg, it's great to be back with you.
Well, Shannon, it's great to talk to you again here on the Highway to Hope podcast as we start our second season. And I've got to tell you, it's just nice to be in a new year. My goodness, 2020. Everybody could spend a lot of time talking about 2020, but let's just move on. But before we move on, Shannon, 2020 was an amazing year for you guys because you set some records, didn't you?
We did. We had several major milestones that we met in 2020. Of course, those milestones would not have been met without the awesome support that we have seen from not just people in the trucking community and companies in the community, but people outside the community. 2020, we started off 2020. If you'll remember from our last podcast, we had talked about what our goal was, and it was to raise $1 million. Started off the year, aggressive goal to begin with, and then March rolled around, the pandemic hit, and we panicked and thought, how in the world are we going to make this happen?
Exactly.
But really, really what happened was I think the whole world just started to see how important and how essential truck drivers really are. And it took something like this, sadly, to make people really think about where their products come from. And so drivers really started getting the attention, and people really started thinking, what are we going to do to make sure the supply chain keeps going, that these drivers are still able to move out there and get everything that we need, not just the things from Amazon that we can't live without, but our groceries, our toilet paper, our medications that we need, the PPE that we needed. And so people just started stepping up in mass and companies to show support in 2020.
They've talked for years about the shelves being empty, and the shelves literally were empty when you talk about toilet paper, when you talk about sanitizing wipes, and again, the PPE element of this. And truck driving was definitely highlighted as an industry, as an essential industry. People have talked about that for years, but 2020 really underscored that. Shannon, when we talked with Joyce Brenny, president of SCF, on the podcast back in, I think, June, we talked with Joyce, and she had talked about that goal of raising $1 million. And at the time I thought, wow, in the middle of COVID and all of this and having to restructure, retool as you guys did, I thought, I never doubted you guys, but I thought, boy, that's a reach. Because I know in the past, I mean, what was the highest number you had reached in the past for a year?
Gosh, our highest number, it was right around $730,000. So she was really pushing us this year to bring in 300,000 plus more than we had ever brought in. So that was a little daunting, but she's such a great cheerleader and she's such a great encourager. She was like, let's get it done. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. And so we started working hard, and then companies started reaching out to us too. We got some exposure in areas that we didn't typically have exposure in. We did a podcast where we talked to some drivers that we helped, the Drews who were on PBS. And so we got a mention on PBS that we had never gotten before. We've also been on some other major news networks and major publications, national publications that we'd never had access to before. So that really did give us some exposure that we weren't used to having. And so it brought some attention, which we needed and drivers needed.
Well, and you mentioned the Drews, and the Drews kind of underscore what was happening in this industry because the Drews endured COVID-19. They went through that experience, and St. Christopher was there to help the Drews. And you guys were able to help others that went through COVID-19 and other folks that went through some very serious situations that weren't related to COVID. You guys were doing your mission, and you guys were instituting wellness programs, and you were gathering in greater support as we were talking about the money you're raising to get to that $1 million goal. Can you talk to us about the increased support that you got this year? I know that you brought in more corporate donors, but the groundswell of support from the grassroots was strong as well.
It was. We saw a ton of new corporate sponsors. And I'll just let everybody know, if you're ever wondering who our sponsors are, pop over to our website at truckersfund.org. Click on our sponsors. It's going to show you every corporate sponsor that we have. We don't have our personal donors listed on there because we don't have permission to share their names. So we don't typically share their information unless they want it shared. But you can see who all of our corporate sponsors are. We probably had, gosh, I don't have the exact number at my fingertips. I probably should, but it's like 30 something new corporate sponsors that joined us this year, and they were significant. A lot of our donations come in very small dollar amounts at a time. We don't have huge dollar amount donations that come in, but this year we had some huge blessings. We had $100,000 from Pilot, $100,000 from Loves, $50,000 from C.H. Robinson, $60,000+ from Molo Solutions, $100,000 from Progressive Insurance, $15,000 from Citgo. We saw some really large donations come in this year from companies that said, you know what, we want to make sure these drivers are taken care of. Not just COVID drivers, but drivers in any situation. And so we had a lot of companies that learned about us that didn't know we were here. And they're like, hey, we want to be a part of what you're doing. So we have so many new sponsors, and we're thankful for everyone. And we're looking forward to building those connections and maintaining those donations and support into 2021.
I want to underscore the fact that the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund went over $1 million this year in fundraising. When did that happen, and what was the exact total?
Well, this came down to the wire. So we were still waiting for donations to come in even the day before New Year's Eve, so the 30th. And then on the 31st, we had some unexpected donations come in through PayPal. And on New Year's Eve is when we finally broke that $1 million mark. And so I'm very humbled to officially announce we did exceed the $1 million goal, and the total raised for 2020 was $1,004,445.02.
Wow, okay. $45.02. That's amazing.
That's right.
All right.
Every penny counts at St. Christopher Fund.
And I know you guys very well, and you make every penny count. And that's one of the reasons that folks respect you so much in this industry. I know everybody was glad to say goodbye to 2020, but to be able to have a milestone like that and have it come in on the last day had to at least salvage part of 2020 for you guys, at least.
It really did. In a year like 2020, where there just seems to be so much negative going on, you really have to look and pull out those positive things. And really, honestly, there are still plenty of those as well. And this was just a blessing for us. This support really is not just value for us. It says how important truck drivers are to the people in this country. That is important to us as well, because we want to be able to take care of drivers when they need us. We want to be able to offer new and improved programs, health initiatives that support drivers. This support allows us to do that. And I know that sounds like a huge number. It's $1 million. And I was just told this last week. Hey, y'all brought in $1 million. What more could you possibly need? You don't need any more money. You're fine. And it sounds that way. But if you look at the number of drivers that we help and the amount of money for those drivers, paying those bill holders directly, and the amount of money that we spend on our health and wellness programs for drivers, our money is going out as fast as it's coming in. It's really important to us to be able to maintain the level of support that we're able to offer drivers and hopefully increase that level of support, as well as expand new programs. It's not free to start new programs, new health programs to offer to drivers. And so this helps us do that in 2021, because we're always saying, what's going to be the next thing? What is the next thing drivers are dealing with? And how can we help in that area? That allows us to expand our reach and expand our programming in that next year.
Exactly. And the main interview segment we have in this edition of the podcast is about a new program that you guys are bringing. And it's a program that is for free. And the reason that it's for free is that you have the funding that's coming in. But let's talk a moment about just how many drivers did you help in 2020?
In 2020, we were able to help 322 drivers, and we paid right at $400,000 directly to their bill holders. And just a reminder, we don't give drivers any money. Everything goes directly to their bill holders. They have to submit their bills to us. And we're very focused in our mission. Again, another reminder, we only pay necessity household expenses. We can only pay for things like rent or mortgage, utility bills, vehicle payments, and insurance payments, and that's it. So we're pretty focused there. We want to make sure that drivers have the basic necessities. And on top of that, we also spent over $11,000 on driver health and wellness initiatives. We have a lot of money going out. We were playing catch up from 2019 where we didn't meet our mark there. So we've exceeded our mark in 2020. And it's just a blessing. I could really spend a whole podcast just thanking the individuals and the companies that have supported us. That would get very boring, I'm sure, for me to sit there and talk about that. That's why I send people to the website. Just go find out who is supporting the men and women on the road that are always supporting us.
For sure. So 2020 is behind us. It's in your books. It's sealed. It's done. So the big question is, how do you top what you did in 2020 in 2021?
Well, we have this president of St. Christopher Fund. And by the way, all of our board is volunteer. We have this president of St. Christopher Fund. Her name is Joyce Brenny. She is the president and CEO of Brenny Transportation. And she knows how to continue to push and encourage to get us to the next level. So our new goal for 2021, our new slogan is 1.1 in 21. We've already hit the ground running with that. Our board is already running. We also I have to congratulate on the podcast, Tim Ridley from the Tim Ridley Show.
Oh, yeah.
He has been on our board just about since day one, but he was voted in as vice president this year. So he and Joyce are going to be our two top leaders on our executive team this year. And so we're excited to have him move up into that position. And both of them are just very encouraging people. They're very positive, and they know how to just really make you want to work harder to reach the goals. And they don't let you forget that you have personal goals along with your work goals. Your life is not revolved just around work. You need to have your personal goals really before your work goals, because if everything is in line personally, then your work life is going to come a lot smoother and go a lot better too. So they're both very, very good at that. I'm so excited to be working with them in 2021 to hopefully push us again to another milestone.
When I saw the announcement come across your website that you guys had reached the $1 million goal, I was very happy for you. I was very happy for the organization. And then when I think about that and remind people of your title in the organization, you're the Director of Philanthropy and Development, which means that you're really the point person for all the money that's got to come in. So I'm sitting there thinking about, I'd actually been watching the miniseries From Earth to the Moon, and there is a scene in there where the director of NASA is watching John F. Kennedy make the speech about we will go to the moon in this decade. And this guy's the director of NASA, has just been appointed. He looks around and he goes, does anybody want my job? And I was thinking about it to myself. I'm like, for Shannon, I'm like, okay, well, we got to $1 million. What's next? And so the encore, I love it. 1.1 in 2021. That's good. And it's nice to know that you've got that good support around you as well.
Yes, and it's so funny because we had not even reached the $1 million goal yet, but Joyce was so confident that we were going to get there that she went ahead and laid out the 2021 goal before we ever reached the $1 million goal. She's like, we've got this. It's going to happen. We're going to have this by midnight on December 31st. So with that being said, here's our goal for 2021. So I was already looking at 2021's goal before we ever met 2020's goal.
But in all seriousness, that shows your dedication and the organization's dedication to your mission. And I wanted to kind of change gears a little bit and talk about the second part of your mission as an organization, and that is wellness. And you guys are introducing a new wellness program here that is much needed in our industry. And it's exciting to me because I think this initiative is going to have some traction because it's something that is reachable, attainable, and can make a difference in people's lives. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. So this is what additional support means for us, that we are able to take an area where we see there is struggle. We see the applications come in that have diabetes on them. Now, that may not be why the person is applying for assistance with us, but it's an underlying issue. And it's one of those things that if you're diabetic, it leads to other issues that you may be dealing with. So diabetes is our third diagnosis that comes in on our application. So this was one of those areas where we could say, we can step into this. There is a program that can help. So there is this CDC program that we've been certified on. Julie Dillon, we'll talk to her later, is going to be leading this program to drive down diabetes. It's called Driving Down Diabetes. That is our program. And so what we want to do is encourage drivers to make healthier choices in 2021. And it's really for pre-diabetic people, really to make those changes ahead of time before you have that diabetes diagnosis. And so we're very excited about this program. It's a year-long program. Nothing changes overnight. Nothing happens overnight. That's why this program is so valuable and so important to us. And we really hope people will take it seriously and take their health seriously this year and come be a part of this program.
Well, as somebody who has had a high A1C during my lifetime, and it's something that I've had to work to drive down and try to maintain at a lower level, I can really appreciate what you guys are trying to do in this program because changing that is difficult. Changing that takes a commitment to a change in lifestyle. And I know, and having talked with Julie before in our previous podcast and some of the other things that you've shared about how she approaches her work, is that you guys are making this program and making the ability to drive down your A1C attainable. That is very important because we know that something like this is not something, as you mentioned, you can't change it overnight. It takes time, and the fact that you guys have laid out a 52-week program with this is something that I think makes a lot of sense, and again, it's attainable.
It is, and that's what you have to do when you have a goal as big as this, getting control of your A1C, moving from possibly a pre-diabetic diagnosis, the opposite direction, not towards diabetes. You have to make it an attainable goal. And attainable means a lot of times biting off small pieces. And so that's what we are doing with this program. And it's really the same philosophy that we have with our Rigs Without Cigs program. We know quitting smoking is a process. It's an addiction. And so our process is not a 30-day process. It's not a 60-day process. We will walk with you for a year to help you quit smoking because we know you can backslide at any given time when there's an addiction like that. It's the same thing with diabetes. It's the same thing with food. Most of us, we don't eat to live. We live to eat, honestly. You know,
Exactly.
we love our food.
Exactly,
So it's
yeah.
hard to make those changes.
And I think those words capture exactly how most of us feel, is that, yeah, we live to eat most days. And the thing is that what we're talking about here is eating to live, and eating to live in the right way. You had a chance to get together with Julie and the sponsor of this program and talk to them. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll take a listen to the conversation.
We did. So Julie Dillon, our wellness manager, she is passionate about health in general. This is her baby, along with every other health and wellness initiative that we have going on. And so we're excited to have her come on and talk about the program, Driving Down Diabetes. She's going to share with us when it starts, how it works, what people can expect from it. She's also going to share, we want to be sure we use this word because it's important. The program is free. The program is free. The program won't cost you a dime. It's free.
It's free.
So that is important to us because we know that it's hard to spend money on your own self. It just is. We'll spend money on other people all day long, but it's hard to invest in ourselves. So we are investing in you all. We are investing in the men and women behind the wheel. So we want you to be a part of it. So Julie's going to share about that. We're going to introduce our sponsor, Catherine Amatrian from Southern Recipe is going to join us. And she's going to share why they wanted to be a part of not just St. Christopher Fund, which they've been a part for several years, why they specifically wanted to be a part of this Driving Down Diabetes initiative.
Well, folks, let's take a listen to our interview on the Driving Down Diabetes program from the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund.
So let's welcome today to our SCF Highway to Hope podcast, Julie Dillon, the St. Christopher Fund Wellness Manager. Welcome back to the podcast, Julie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you back. We're excited to talk about all of the great things happening at St. Christopher Fund in 2021. We have talked about our goals and where we're going for this year after closing out a really successful year in the midst of a pandemic. And we're excited to share about a new Driving Down Diabetes prevention program that St. Christopher is offering to Class A CDL holders. So, Julie, I want to give you an opportunity to just explain what this program is, how it works, when people can register, why they need to register. Just give us the lowdown on this new program.
Driving Down Diabetes is something that is near and dear to my heart. I know we've talked a little bit about this in the past, but for me, my dad passed away with renal failure and diabetes, just the different things that go along with diabetes a couple of years ago. He was also a smoker. So the two main programs that St. Christopher Fund offer as preventative health programs are things that I have been personally affected by. So it's close to my heart. And what this program is, it is designed for truck drivers, anyone with a Class A CDL who is at risk for diabetes. This program isn't specifically designed for someone who has already been diagnosed with diabetes, but we want to get on the front end of things and help drivers get healthier if they are at risk for diabetes. We have a risk assessment test that is on our website, which is truckersfund.org. It's 7 questions long. You just take the risk assessment test and it'll automatically tell you your score. If you score a 5 or above on this test, then you can go ahead and register for our program because that shows that you are at risk for diabetes. Many people think that you have to have an A1C number or you need to know your glucose numbers. And for this program, you do not have to do that. It's a CDC approved program. which means that we are working with the CDC to promote and to implement this program. It is the CDC's curriculum. We are trained to teach the curriculum, and of course, we'll add a little things of our own in there as well, so we're excited about that. And it's a year-long program. I know that sounds like an exorbitant amount of time, but we do it in increments. So it's every week for 16 weeks, and then it's bi-weekly for 2 months, and then the last 6 months is once a month. And that's more of a maintenance phase, those last 6 months.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, Julie, this is a long program. It is a 1 year long program, but the way I see it is it takes a long time to develop new habits and to make changes. And so trying to support people that are at risk for diabetes is not a quick fix. And so that's why this program is so good. It really does give that investment of support and education so people can begin to make those new habits, because we know that's not going to happen overnight.
You are exactly correct. We don't get in the shape that we're in. Our bodies don't get in the shape that they're in overnight. It takes time, years of habits that we've developed, whether we're overweight or whether our eating habits have caused us to have a little bit elevated numbers, whatever happens to be with us, that doesn't happen overnight. And so getting healthy is not going to happen overnight. It takes time. So we are investing the next 52 weeks, starting February 1st, in the lives of drivers. This program is basically like getting a free health coach for an entire year in a program format, because it's going to be live. We're doing it using the Teams app, and we will be talking with each other live, back and forth. They will be able to ask questions, get answers, have their input, and receive feedback on that. So it's not just someone teaching a class and people being bored out of their minds listening to someone rattle on. It is interactive. And where else can anyone, driver or anyone out there, get free health coaching for a year? Because that's pretty much what this program is it's designed to help drivers get healthier and have one-on-one time, answering question sessions, someone who's trained to do it. And so I'm just thrilled that we are able to do this program and have the support that we do.
What do the numbers look like for diabetes, just kind of in the general population? I mean, we see the applications that come in. I don't personally, but we see them. And so we know there's a lot of diabetes that comes in on the application, whether it's the reason they're contacting us or not, as well as pre-diabetes that we see on there on the medical records as well. How do the numbers in the trucking industry compare with the numbers in the general population?
They are more than double. As far as the general population is around 14% that can be pre-diabetic. And looking at the people that have been polled, it's around 30% in the trucking industry. Like you said, with St. Christopher Fund, the applications that come in, diabetes is the third leading cause that we see of taking drivers off the road. We want to prevent that. Our goal is if we can help some drivers get healthy on the front end, then a year from now, when they're unable to drive due to a physical problem that is either diabetes or has been caused by diabetes, they're off the road. And if you're off the road, you don't make money. If you're off the road, you may not be able to support your family. So we want to be able to help them get healthier and stay that way.
Absolutely. So I know a lot of what we do at St. Christopher Fund, we are very big on confidentiality. And I know when you start talking about health issues with drivers and you're wanting them to come forward and put their face with their health issue, there can be some anxiety there, worried about who's going to know about this, who's going to hear this, what if I haven't talked to anybody about this yet, I've just talked to my doctor. What does that look like on our end? Everything we do is confidential, by the way, and this program is not going to be any different. But Julie, just give some confirmation on what this will look like and how we are going to protect these drivers' information.
Well, this group that we are having, as far as on the Teams app, it is private. Anything in there will not be shared. We would not be putting that out for public use at all. Our Facebook group is going to be private because we will have a Facebook group for support as well. It will be private and will not be shared with the public. The thing that we will be able to do for the public to be able to, with other drivers that may not be involved in the program, is we're talking about also having an additional video that we do each week that does not involve the drivers, that we can put out there for other people to see. But as far as the drivers are concerned, they're protected by HIPAA laws. We will not provide anything or share anything that they have told us. We want to protect them and their privacy.
Absolutely. That's the utmost importance to us. So we're excited about this program, and we're excited to have a sponsor that goes along with this program. And so I want to welcome into the conversation Catherine Amatrian. She is from Southern Recipe. They're one of our corporate sponsors, and they have been very instrumental in working with St. Christopher Fund for the last several years. You'll hear their name familiar with Truck Driver Appreciation Week, I am sure. They are a big part of that and a part of giving back to drivers during that time. Catherine is the Director of Marketing at Southern Recipe. Catherine, welcome to the Highway to Hope podcast.
Hey, Shannon and Greg and Julie, thanks for having me. We're super excited to be a sponsor of this Driving Down Diabetes program with St. Christopher Fund.
Well, tell us, we know why you're involved with St. Christopher Fund in general, but tell us why being a part of Driving Down Diabetes was important to you all. Why did you want to jump in on this particular initiative?
For folks who aren't familiar with us, I'm from Southern Recipe, and we are the world's largest manufacturer of pork rinds. So pork rinds, I don't know if your listeners may know, they're a low-carb, salty snack that's a great alternative to potato chips, popcorn, pretzels, when you're craving something salty and crunchy. I think folks may not know that those products contain starches, which will spike your blood sugar. Pork rinds are a no-carb, they have no sugar added, so it's a great snack alternative. And so we thought it was a great connection and a great fit for us to increase our support of St. Christopher Fund and their mission to help with driver health across America.
We're excited to have you all join us in this. We know that drivers are a pivotal part of our lives, from farm to grocery store to dinner table. We know that they are essential to you all as well, and you value them. And so we're excited to have you all join this specific initiative. If I'm able to ask, we had talked earlier that you have some personal experience with diabetes as well. So a cause like this could have some personal feelings that go along with that, because I think we've all been touched by diabetes. I know I have. My dad is diabetic. My sister is diabetic. And so I have personally been touched by it as well. And it's something that I'm worried about and kind of on the lookout for. Is it mine? Both of them were adult onset, and so this could be me at any given time.
Such a huge passion of mine. My grandfather was diabetic, and much like Julie and you've shared, Shannon, I saw the effects that this condition can have on the human body and your life. He was type 2 diabetic, and again, an adult onset. But throughout the course of his treatment and life, he incurred macular degeneration, which caused him to have to retire early, and he wasn't able to drive. For a driver, that's their lifestyle and their livelihood. Their vision is impaired due to diabetes. They're out of work. I think this is such an impactful program to help these drivers ahead of that diagnosis, like you said. I think it's so much easier to try and maintain and control before it becomes full-blown diabetes. I'm just super thrilled to be able to make an impact with this community and the drivers that you guys are going to help throughout this program. We're thrilled to be a part of it.
Well, we're excited to have you be a part of it. Share with our listeners where they can find more information about Southern Recipe, because I know, I'm just going to speak from personal experience. I have tried the pork rinds, just about all of the flavors, and they are all fantastic. And so these things can be shipped right to your house. I'm just saying, they can make it really easy. So where can they find you all?
And we make that really easy. You can visit porkrinds.com. and we'll be able to ship to your house. We ship across the U.S., free shipping. We'd love to send you guys a sampler pack, and any of your participants who are going to be a part of the program, we're going to be there all along the way, sending some freebies along and encouraging the participants all along the way. You can also find us on Facebook at Southern Recipe and Instagram at Southern Recipe.
I'm going to order those pork rinds. I'm going to go to porkrinds.com and check it out, because everybody needs to eat a little more healthy. And Julie, that brings me to a question I had for you, which is this, is that we're talking about a lifestyle change here. Those types of things sometimes seem daunting. I mean, it seems like a mountain you got to climb. But can you talk about taking that first step and the benefits of taking that first step and kind of the pacing that you have with your programs? Because I know that one of the things that we've talked about before is always giving encouragement and not being discouraged. So talk about that first step and talking about just trying to stay on the path to better health.
That is a great question, and I hope I do it justice with my answer. So the way I am looking at this program, and maybe this giving a visual will be helpful in understanding it. It's like if you have this big circle and this big pie, if you cut it in half, that's still a whole huge chunk. As we are working on our health, if we just hand you a whole pie and say, here you go, have at it, it's overwhelming and it is very daunting and people don't know where to start. Our job, my job, is to take that whole pie and cut it into 52 pieces and say, we're going to work on this piece today. We're going to take little pieces week by week and we're going to build on what we've already learned. So in week 1, where we're just introducing the program and explaining how it works and make sure that this is where people want to be and that they're comfortable being in our program and what we're teaching. And then when we go into our next actual full first session, we're going to be going over some basics, just taking that little piece of that pie. And then each week we will build on that until by the end of that year, we have completed our circle and we have handed them a whole set of lifestyle changes that they can go out and live their best life and feel the best that they can live, no matter whether they're in the truck, they're at home, they're out to dinner, they're in the grocery store, wherever they are, they know how to be successful and they feel confident in their success so that they don't feel daunted and overwhelmed, that this is a way that we can take it piece by piece, one step at a time, day by day, and help them live their best life.
I really like that approach because, again, if you go in and have a checkup and they run your labs and your doctor says, hey, your A1C is on the rise, it's borderline, that can be very alarming, right? You have to do certain things to change. To have this program, to have the ability, and then to have the support of Southern Recipe and what they're bringing to the table, pun intended here, it's definitely something that you guys can really impact and help folks make a change that will benefit their lives, because nobody wants to deal with diabetes if they don't have to. And adult onset diabetes is something that is preventable, but it's difficult in this day and age with so many temptations out there.
Yes, it is. And one of the things that we are going to focus on, or at least I plan to focus on, is that I'm not just going to tell you this is what you should do. I'm going to explain to you why you should do this and how you got to this point. What's happening inside your body that your A1C is a little high? What's happening inside your body? What have you done to your body? What have you been putting in your body that's causing your body to react the way it is? So it's not just a here it is, go try this, see if this works. I'm going to explain why and how you got there.
Now, Julie, one of the things I really like about this is that you are taking the time to explain really the chemistry of what goes on. And I might not take time to look at the back of a food label, or I may not realize, let's say that I love pretzels, right? And I do. And I could eat half a bag of pretzels in an afternoon. That's not necessarily really good for me. May drive my A1C number up. But at the same time, I think about folks that are driving down the road. They might like pretzels too, or potato chips, and have that there as a snack, right? But again, Catherine talked about pork rinds, and pork rinds could be a great substitute for pretzels or potato chips. Again, not picking on those snacks, but then looking at the bottom line, which is that A1C number, right?
Yeah, I think what's cool is Julie and this program are going to help drivers to see maybe whatever that craving is that you're having. There's an alternative. There's a swap that may help you achieve this lifestyle goal a little easier. Portioning it out. It doesn't have to be pork rinds, but maybe it's celery.
All your vegetables are always going to be good substitutes for snacky foods. Just to give you a quick example, though, when you mentioned the pretzels, one of the things that we can talk about in there, if people have questions during our program, is why pretzels may not be the best choice. And we can go into the why. So it's not just a matter of telling someone, don't eat this, not that. but why that's not the best choice. Whether it be your celery or your carrots or any of your vegetables like that, why those are good choices, what they can do for the body.
And what I love about this is that you guys are giving, through your sponsor, an immediate alternative, something that's very tasty, particularly as you go down the road. I have to tell you that whenever I'm out on a road trip, if I see pork rinds at the truck stop, that's a real temptation. And I'll often want to buy a bag of those. There are some great alternatives to this. You mentioned celery, and I just really don't like celery. And that's not to pick on, that's just a personal preference of mine. So if you told me that, okay, maybe I'm not that excited about it, but at the same time, I look at the benefit of this overall program, driving down my A1C number for better health and to ensure my career, and all of those things are making great sense. And then Shannon, to have St. Christopher do this, and I know this is part of your mission to promote wellness, that's got to be exciting for you guys as well.
It's been very exciting. We're always looking for ways to expand our health and wellness initiatives and programs. And so diabetes is something that we've been talking about for quite a while. And so when this opportunity came up, it was one of those things that we just jumped on. And so Julie just took it and ran with it. And she is trained and ready to go. And not just from the CDC curriculum, but I mean, Julie is getting certifications of her own in health and nutrition that will help give additional information to the participants of this program. And she's also been very proactive in going out to different fuel stops even and seeing what is available to drivers. So she's going to be knowledgeable even on saying, I know what's available to you, choose this, not that. She's really trying to put herself where these drivers are and help make the best decisions and encourage them along the way. That's what's so great about having somebody. This is Julie's passion, even outside of St. Christopher Fund. Health and wellness is a passion of Julie's. It really just bleeds from her personal life over into work life. I just think that's a blessing for us to have someone that is invested in it personally as well.
And Catherine, I wanted to ask you about what do you like about the trucking industry and what have you learned about the trucking industry through St. Christopher Fund?
We've learned a ton from our friends at St. Christopher. We've been working with St. Christopher Fund now for about 4 or 5 years, and we started working with you guys as a Truck Driver Appreciation Week campaign. And we've since learned that giving thanks and appreciating our drivers is a year-long effort. We rely on drivers as a food manufacturer to get our products from our manufacturing plants to our customers and to the grocery stores. Without them, we would be lost. It's such a critical part of our business, and we're just so thankful and excited to be able to participate with a mission that's going to help with overall driver health and livelihood.
Catherine, one of the things I was hoping to talk with you about is being able to have you guys on as guests in our group that you can show us some things to do and some cooking recipes and do some demos for us when we get to our cooking portion of the program. Is that something we could talk about and be interested in doing?
Absolutely. We'd love to show your participants about how you can cook with pork rinds. It's actually really cool. Pork rinds can be used crushed up as a breading substitute. Think about using that in like a meatloaf as a panko replacement, or actually used as a breading on chicken or fish. Super tasty, and we'd love to take part and provide a monthly recipe for your participants.
That would be awesome. The ones that do make it, encourage them to try it and then let us give feedback live in the group of what it was like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. Hey, Catherine, can you tell me a little bit about your recipes? Don't you guys have some recipes that you could also possibly share with us?
We do. We've got a whole catalog of recipes also available at porkrinds.com. We've got hundreds of ways that you can use pork rinds in recipes that'll make them a little more low carb and diabetic friendly.
Well, Julie and Catherine, thank you guys for being here with us today. Julie, one last wrap up. Tell us again when this program kicks off and how drivers can register for this program.
The program kicks off on February the 1st. That's going to be an informational session just to give an overview of what all the program entails, what's expected of the drivers, and what they can expect from us. And then they go to truckersfund.org to the health and wellness section, and you'll see Driving Down Diabetes, and the registration form is there along with the risk assessment test that they can take. And the best part of this program is getting healthy. But the second best part of this program is the fact that it's free. And this is a quality program that's a year long, and it is completely free to any driver that has a valid CDL.
Absolutely. That is a major component of why we choose to offer programs. We want to offer programs either free or very low cost for drivers. So that was very important to us. So if you all have any questions, you can always email Julie at truckersfund.org or pop over to the website, truckersfund.org, click on Health and Wellness, and click on Driving Down Diabetes. That will get you all of the information. Also, check out our sponsor, Southern Recipe, at porkrinds.com and across social platforms. We're excited to have them be a part of this particular initiative. Julie and Catherine, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for taking the time to share about why this program is important to St. Christopher Fund, as well as why Southern Recipe want to be a part of it. We appreciate you both, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of the week.
Thank you all very much.
Well, Shannon, that was a great conversation with Julie and Catherine. It's a terrific program, Driving Down Diabetes. I hope that everybody will take advantage of this because, again, as I mentioned at the top of the podcast, I'm someone who has had some struggles with high A1C, and I know getting that number down can be difficult, but it is something that you can do. And I really wish I'd had a program like the one you guys have put together, because it would have been very, very helpful to do it week by week. As Julie said, cutting that pie into 52 pieces, it makes it a lot easier to eat, and to know that pie is going to be sugar-free too.
That's right. She also mentioned, how many times do you get an opportunity to have a life coach, somebody to walk you through a specific issue, a specific health issue you are dealing with, somebody that's trained, somebody that's willing to do it long term, and somebody that's willing to do it for free. You don't get that opportunity very often. So we really hope people will take advantage of this program. And just a reminder, it kicks off on February 1st. So there's not a lot of time to register. Once it kicks off officially, it will run for a year, and probably not going to be able to register for it for another year. So you don't want to miss this opportunity to take control of this part of your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, that is part of what raising $1 million in a year can do for you guys. You can add a program like this. I know that, getting back to our initial conversation about goals for the 1.1 in 21, I know you're already starting to work on donations, and grassroots donations from drivers, owner-operators, independent contractors is a huge part of what drives St. Christopher's funding throughout the year.
Absolutely. I mentioned earlier we had some really great large donations come in from companies, and that was a huge blessing for us this year. Ultimately, our donations have always come in from driver level, individual level. That has always sustained us, and that really hasn't changed. And so we hope that the drivers will see that we're wanting to give back to them, and we're wanting to invest in them, so they'll want to invest in us as well. We have plans for other programs down the road as well, and it's going to take time and money to make those happen as well. But just know that we're working hard to support you all out there, to be there when you need us the most. And we appreciate everybody being a part of making this crazy $1 million fundraising goal a reality. There's no time to waste. We're taking off running already to meet 1.1 in 21. So we hope you'll be a part of the mission with us for this year as well.
Well, Shannon, before we close out this edition of the Highway to Hope podcast, let's remind folks how they can get connected with you guys on social media, through your website, and all of that.
Yes, we are everywhere. So you can find us on our website is truckersfund.org. On Facebook, you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on Instagram, you can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us pretty much anywhere you are, we will be there. You can always email us too. You can email the office, contact@truckersfund.org. If you have questions about health and wellness, you can email Julie directly at julie@truckersfund.org. And if you are interested in talking to me about becoming a partner, a sponsor, a donor, you can contact me at Shannon@truckersfund.org. I hope to see some people face to face face in 2021 since we didn't see anybody in 2020. Fingers crossed that we're moving in that direction so we can say hello and give a hug again.
That's right. And as we get those vaccinations rolled out and all of that, we hope that will happen. It's been nearly a year since you and I got together in Tuscaloosa face-to-face and did one of these. This is our 12th podcast. We had 11 last year. We're looking forward to doing at least one a month. Not to put any pressure on you, but what kind of plans do you have for the podcast in 2021?
Well, I hope that we'll do at least one a month. I was just sitting down before we started today's podcast, going ahead and trying to map out some topics and things that we want to cover in 2021. We want to get ahead of the game and really just get some things that we feel like are valuable to our listeners and our audience. And so I look forward to brainstorming with you, Greg, and brainstorming with our team on what we can provide and what we can educate people with in 2021. So be on the lookout. We're going to start rolling these out. We gave you a little break, and now the break is over. Be on the lookout. We are back.
We are. And one of the things that I would encourage folks, and I know that you would too, is that if you've got ideas for the podcast, please send them to Shannon. Please send them into the office at SCF, or you can send them to us here at the Pod Wheels Network by sending an email to info@podwheelsnetwork.com. We'll share them with Shannon and her team. I'm excited about what we're going to be able to do with the podcast for SCF here in the next year, because we had so much fun and we had a lot of people that listened to the podcast last year, had over 15,000 downloads of those 11 podcasts. So it was a good audience outreach. It was good for the Pod Wheels Network, and I trust that it was good for SCF as well.
It was, and we're so thankful, Greg, to have you doing this with us. This was a platform that we would not have had without you stepping in there and taking on this production and saying, hey, I want to be a part of what you're doing, and I can offer my services in this area. So it's been a lot of fun. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for 15,000 downloads. We hope we've done it justice. This was our first year, so I know for me anyway, it was a learning curve, but I have enjoyed every minute of it, and I hope we can do it better and do some new and exciting things this year. Maybe we'll try to switch things up on a few of the podcasts and just do something a little different and do some fun things instead of just always spewing some numbers at you, which is what I feel like I do sometimes. But we feel like it's important to let people know what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we're impacting the industry. But we like to have fun too.
Absolutely, and we'll find those ways to do that. And again, I'm hoping that at some point this year that we can get out of the studio, that we are not doing virtual recording, that we're actually talking to folks. When it's safe to do so, we will do it. Again, it's a terrific partnership. I'm looking forward to 2021. I'm looking forward to 1.1 in 21.
Me too. Hopefully y'all can help us get there.
Once again, thank you for listening to Highway to Hope on the Pod Wheels Network. The Highway to Hope is the official podcast of the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund. The St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund is a charity that helps over-the-road and regional truck drivers and their families when an illness or injury occurring within the last year has caused them to be out of work. SCF is also working to provide programs, including health and wellness initiatives, that are designed to benefit professional drivers and the trucking industry. If you are a professional truck driver or a family member of a driver who's in need of assistance following an illness or injury, please visit the organization's website at truckersfund.org. That's truckersfund.org. Over its history, the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund has raised more than $3 million through the generous support of donations by corporate sponsors, groups, and countless individuals who are part of the trucking community at large. The need for assistance for professional drivers and their families has never been greater. SCF is continually working to grow its donor base, and you might be able to help in the effort to pay it forward through SCF. If you are interested in becoming a supporter of the work done by SCF, please visit truckersfund.org and click on the donate button. Visit truckersfund.org and consider making a donation today. We'll have more new episodes of The Highway to Hope coming your way in the near future. The Pod Wheels Network is proud to produce the Highway to Hope podcast in collaboration with the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund. We'd like to hear from you, our listeners. Please send your questions, your comments, and your ideas for what you'd like to hear on the podcast to the following email address: info@podwheelsnetwork.com. That's info@podwheelsnetwork.com. The Pod Wheels Network would like to thank you for connecting with us today. You can stay up to date on the latest from the Pod Wheels Network by downloading the Pod Wheels app. It's available in the Apple Store and on Google Play. Just search Pod Wheels in either store and download the app. As we close out this edition of the Highway to Hope podcast, the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund and the Pod Wheels Network send our best for your continued safe travels on our nation's highways. And especially these days, as we face the COVID-19 global pandemic, remember taking good care of your health is one of the key components to staying safe on the road and staying safe at home. So with every mile you drive and during your time at home, let's stay safe and healthy out there.